All right, another Tim Kaine reaction, this time on game length. 5,000 hours of content. Clearly, that's what sells.
Hi everyone, it's me, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Today I want to talk about game
Yeah,
length. In particular, I want to answer a question from Bonebard6178, who asked, "It feels like a lot of people put value on long
good name.
games with a lot of content, while I avoid almost anything these days longer than 10 hours. Curious how you feel about the benefits and drawbacks of long and short games."
Different markets. I don't know. I think that there's a respect for games that are always there for you, like the Minecrafts, the Terrarias, your insert live service MMO here, but I don't think there's any game length that sells or doesn't sell. It really depends on your market. If you're saying this is our narrative story driven game and also it's a 200-hour narrative, I doubt you're going to get that many people interested in that at this point in time. Maybe, 10 years ago it would be different. Then if you're like, okay, we're making a roguelike game, but there's 20 hours of content in a roguelike game, you might have the same kind of issue, right? So I think it depends on genre, it depends on the market, um, a lot of factors.
That's a very good question. I know I haven't talked about this. I know, but various videos of mine I may mention um, trying to reach a certain number of hours because it's something that used to be more frequently asked for, and I'll
Hmm.
talk about that. The way I thought I'd structure.
Oftentimes now, while the hours is important, you do get asked like, how long is your gameplay loop? Like, what's the average play session? And I know with Colden Chronicles, people are going to ask, or publishers are probably going to ask, how long do you expect people to play this game per session? How much content can the player get through in this average game session, right? If it is like an hour and a half gameplay or 2 hour gameplay session, how much content are they going to get through? How many NPC encounters? How much? How many days in game, right? Like, what's your day length? Because if you think of like Stardew Valley, where the game keeps running unless you're in like a menu, which isn't super common, so you can time how much gameplay, how many seasons the player is going to get through in an average play session, right? And then how many play sessions it's going to take to get through 1 year. How many years is it going to take to complete the community center for the average player? Probably 2 or 3, right? So to 100% the game, then you add all that up and you're like, okay, it's going to take the player an average of like 300 hours to 100% the game if they want to do that.
This instead of talking about pros and cons of short and long games, I'm just going to talk about all the pros of a short game and then all the pros of a long game,
Okay,
and then kind of reach a conclusion on what maybe you should do on your own game. So let's start with
smart
short
way.
games. Short games are pretty much in the idea that people want to explore it and resolve it quickly. What this means is the design of your game means you have to give them very fast feedback. They're doing things. Are they doing it well? Are they doing it wrong? Did they make the right choice? Did they do the right thing? Did they win? And those kind of games have, because of their short duration, have to have very obvious and specific goals.
Yeah, and very bite-sized loops and little. I mean, I know he says player feedback, but also we can see like with mobile games the dopamine drip, right? Because they expect that people who open up these games on like the subway, the train, on some sort of transit in the bus, or while they're on the toilet, have 10 to 20 minutes to play. So they optimize all that feedback, the gameplay loop, and the rewards to just maximize that feeling and those rewards within that 10 to 20 minute time period. I think that roguelikes are also the same thing. If it's like I have 30 minutes to play a game, how many of you in chat load up, like some roguelike game? Because you're not going to load up like Oblivion or something remastered because it's like, well, to get through a dungeon, I'd probably have to spend like an hour, so I can't do that. Clair Obscure to play a little bit. It's story driven, so I don't want to do that. I want to load up a roguelike, something that I can play for 10, 20 minutes, maybe get one run in, no big deal. Same with stuff like coding. Yeah, it's just short games are great for that. And so when you are thinking of your target audience or you're thinking of your customer profile, you need to think, how much does this person that I am idealizing playing my game, how much time do they have per session? How is my saving method handled, right? Because if it's a, you don't want to like start them on like some story quest and they have to save and quit for 2 days and come back and try to remember what's going on. You know, you might want to try to optimize your quest length down to a more bite-sized or more a lower number so that it divides better. So if the player has 30 minutes to spend and your quest take an average of 10 minutes to do, well, the player is going to be able to quit if they find they have 20 minutes, or play another quest if they feel like they have 40 minutes to play instead of 30.
These are for gamers who like, I think it's called one and done. They want to play the game, they did the game, they experienced the game, and now they're done. These games are great in the sense that those are the type of gamers who want to get on to the next big thing. So they played this game, maybe they played it for a few days, maybe they even played it for a whole week, and now they're on to the next big thing. There's a lot of gamers who like that, and that's great.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, even if it's just not like a few days or a week, it could be like a 4 to 5 hour game. So it's meant to be like pulled up on a Saturday when you know you have the time and played in one sitting or maximum two sittings. Or you do have that game that's like 1 week where it's like, okay, it's like 10 hours of gameplay or something, right? I think there's a lot of successful games like that.
These games do have replayability.
Yes.
But it tends to be rapid cycle replayability where player choice really matters. And in addition, like as opposed to randomness, but there's also a lot of randomness in the game because you want the game to feel different every time you play, but you also need the player to feel like their choices are influencing the game in the sense of usually it's skill. In a shorter game, it's usually, oh, my skill has gotten really good, I'm getting really much better at this game. Short games benefit from dynamic content so that you can replay it, over and over and over.
Roguelikes.
And you're doing it very quickly, so your notice.
Randomly generated content, different choice of which door you want to go in. You know, Binding of Isaac is a good old classic example, but insert any roguelike here. That's what they're built on. It's just, curated randomness. Like Binding of Isaac was rooms that were designed beforehand with some random elements that might be placed within them, but then it just randomly generates that level for you based on those rooms. It's bite-sized. You can do a run of Binding of Isaac, and you're going to get something different each time you play, and you might play for like 20, 30 minutes.
If the same content is being served to you every time, so you want different levels, different arrangements, different kinds of enemies, you want different plot points, different character abilities. Think about games where it may take you 15 minutes to play through. You want that playthrough to be exciting and be fast-paced, but also give you a lot of choices that you immediately see consequences to. Dynamic content for a short game is also really important because it lets unexpected things happen. Not the player did something and it didn't work the way they thought, but more like, oh, here's a level configuration I've never seen before. Here's a, environment I've never seen before. Or, oh, I got this new ability I've never taken before. Oh, look what it lets me do. That kind of thing. And players will rapidly churn through all those things, and they like to see all that unexpected stuff.
Yep.
But then when they're done, when they've seen all the different things and they've played a bunch of different ways, they can kind of declare these shorter games done. And they move on.
A lot of these shorter games, sadly, though, they don't really last. They don't really provide lasting appeal. They don't really provide like lasting memory. There's a lot of fantastic roguelike games out there that I've played a shit ton of. I know I had fun with it, but it didn't provide me with lasting memories that have shaped the way that I think about games or that I approach games. They're not empty carbs. They're not empty carbs, I'll put it that way, but they're meant to just exist and be fun, and then you move on, and that's perfectly okay.
frequently say, you hear people say about these games, they respected my time, which is not something I heard 20 years ago, but something I hear a lot these days.
True.
So let's contrast this with long games, which I will admit most of my games have been long games. Long games are games with, there's a ton of things to see, a ton of things to do, a lot of choices to make, but many of these things are slower in pace, and there's a lot of, the change occurs over a long term. That's why many of my games, you make a choice and you don't even see anything about it until the end slide. Longer games are ones where players want to make a character, and they want that player that character to grow and change over time. And by time we mean tens of hours. For some games, hundreds of hours. So the game has to be designed with that rich, slow growth in mind. Many gamers talk about long form games being long length games being comfort games, games that they just like logging in and living in it. These games are great because these gamers get not only that sense of comfort, but the value of the game is very high. And
Yeah, I
by
mean, a lot of people do equate. It's kind of maybe shallow to talk about, but people do equate amount of play hours to the cost to talk about quality sometimes. And I don't like that discussion because, I've paid $60 for an Uncharted game, which is, 20, 30 hours of gameplay. I still think that was worth the price because those were really high quality games. Or, it's just the $1 per hour. I've done that too. I don't know. I don't like that. I don't know. To me, the moment to moment, like an hour of gameplay for games is not equal. An hour of gameplay in Minecraft is not always as equal in terms of emotions and memorable experiences as a hour of Uncharted or something like that. So they're both good games. They're both great, and I love them both. But I don't know if I would quantify the gameplay in such a simple term. Hey, what Dragon? Did you try out the new Oblivion remaster? Yes, I did, and it's very good. Go buy it.
value of the game is very high. And by value, I mean the amount of time you get out of it for the amount of money you spent. So if you buy a $60 RPG and you get 100 hours of playthrough,
Pretty good.
well, at the most objective level, that's more value than a $10 game that you play for $10. Or a $10 game that you play for 10 hours.
Yes.
You just got more time for your dollar. And of course, there are online games where you pay $10 or $15 a month, but you play it for years.
Mm-hmm.
And you may play in any given month, you may play tens of hours, which probably is a lot more value than a lot of other entertainment mediums like going to the movies. Maybe not up there with streaming, but streaming is getting more expensive. But that's what long form games are going for, that kind of value, and people arrive in your game to kind of live in it. There is replayability in long form games, but it's for gamers who are very patient and they want to see how all their choices add up.
Yeah, and it might not even happen immediately, right? Like, how many of us have replayed a Bethesda game or replayed, like Dragon Age Origins or something, like or Mass Effect as another example? But it's not like I think most of us would finish Mass Effect on a Paragon playthrough and then would immediately restart it to play on a Renegade playthrough. You might wait a few years. You might have waited until the remaster came out and then done another playthrough of it. They're replayable and you like them, but you often don't want to immediately jump back into them just because that is a big time sink that you feel like if you start, you need to finish. Here, Fall 3 is being remastered next according to the leaked documents. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be very nice. I would love to see that.
So you may make a character and you don't see any immediate change in how they play, but as you buy different skills and different perks, these add up to a significant change. You also get slides at the end that go, wow, look at all the long term results of your choices and what they were.
Exactly.
Players who like long games like seeing that kind of thing.
That's our market for Cold
Now,
Chronicles.
dynamic content works in long form as well, in not only in the form of like dynamic quest content, but also in terms of respawning, just so players can stay with one character and keep experiencing new stuff and see how their new changed character results to interacts with some of the stuff they've seen before. So you kind of see that even though long and short games can benefit from some of the same features, they benefit in a different way. So let's talk about what you may want to do if you're trying to decide, I'm working on a game, how long should it be?
I don't know if there's one right
I'll tell
answer.
you that long games, literally expressed in terms of how many hours a player is going to spend with them, that used to be a marketing point for publishers.
Yeah, that was a holy grail, and I think nowadays, if you say our game has 1,000 hours or it's endless amounts of content, I feel put off by that. Whereas 10 years ago, or when I was younger and had more free time, I would have said, "Oh yes, this is perfect. That's exactly what I want." It's not that I wouldn't buy Terraria 2 if it came out, right? I would absolutely do it. But if you tell me that your game has endless amounts of content, I'd rather just find out how much content I want to play and play that much. Put it that way. Not that your game is built around so much randomness that in order to have a fun time, I need to grind away for tens of hours, which I feel like most MMOs are kind of like. The amount of dopamine rushes in MMOs is so horrible that you can play for 100 hours and realize that you've kind of just wasted the last 100 hours and could have had a much more memorable and emotional experience playing literally any other game for 100 hours. Are games as a service trending? Psychological manipulation, if you want my honest opinion.
To be one of the very first things you were asked. You were presenting a game. I swear, as soon as I was finished presenting it, the first question out of someone's mouth was, how many hours do you think this game will be? I mean, that was literally the very first thing. That's not true anymore. It's also true that when people reviewed games or talked about playing games online, the first thing they would do is talk about how many hours they put into it. It was like a badge of honor.
Yep.
I have 200 hours in this game. Now that's changed. And like I said, people say more about this game respected my time. I'm hearing more and more that people like shorter games because either they want to play a lot of different games or they have other things in their life that demands time from them. Maybe they have a job or are in school or they have a family and they want to devote time to that. So they like and even appreciate games that are like, you can play this for 5 hours, you can play this for 10 hours, and then you're done. You can experience everything we have to give you in a few hours.
I mean, here's a good equivalency. I mean, maybe it's not perfect, but let me use this. As I say, I think that there's, in some cases like MMOs or like the empty carbs, any game that has like that dopamine drip that's purposeful is the empty carbs of gaming. You can enjoy eating empty carbs, but that doesn't mean that they're great for you in terms of like gaming experience. Some people, love playing this. Maybe they have some pretty good memories, but they're meant to psychologically manipulate you, especially these games that have the really bad practices. And I think that when you pull yourself away from those, you'll find that the experiences, the emotions were fleeting at best. That you were just chasing the next drop, chasing the next rare piece of loot or something. And it's a time waster. I agree with you, Dramox. Like it's a time waster, and if you like wasting your time that way, then it's not wasted time. And I can't tell you how to spend your time. But if we want to go just based off of how those experiences are processed, I think it depends on person. Put it that way. And if you're having fun, I agree. With everything you're saying, it's all personal. At least in my opinion, what I've found is that most of these games that do the small dopamine drips really leave no lasting impact on me. They don't. And maybe that's just how I work. That's how I operate. Maybe everybody else operates in a different way, which is probably likely. I don't have bad times with those games. But I do have more memorable times with games that aren't about giving that dopamine drip. I have more long-term lasting memories of scenes from Mass Effect, from the trilogy, than I do with pretty much any roguelike that's ever existed. And I love both.
But still, there are people who want that long term comfort game. Like any feature I've talked about on this channel, there is no right choice here.
Yes,
There are
that's exactly it.
individuals who prefer one over the other very strongly, and they will tell you that. But there is no like majority consensus on whether short or long games are the best thing to make. Some people prefer short games, some people prefer long games. What I would recommend for you is that you look at the features of your game and your design goals, which I know you made because before you ever started making a game, you wrote down your design goals, right? So the design goals in your feature set should help you decide what kind of game you're making and whether there is a game length you should target. Whether you're making
I've seen games made without design goals, and well, we've been down that road. Design what exactly? I've seen games made without them, and at the end, it was just kind of like, okay, did you at any point know what you were trying to make?
a short game with rapid cycle playing and you can be done quickly and after a few weeks you're done, or whether you want one of those long comfort games with long slow growth for your player's character. Anyway, I hope that answers your question, Bonebard6178.
What a name. No, it's a good topic, and yeah, it comes down to like personal preference. You make a long game, it can sell. You make a short game, it can sell. You make a game with 1,000 hours of gameplay, it's gonna sell. If you make a game with 1 hour of gameplay, it could sell. It doesn't matter. It just matters. Do people like the content that you're making? Do they think that the value is there? Is it worth what the asking price? It just depends. There's no right way to do it. Just like there's no right or wrong game design. There's no right or wrong amount of gameplay length. Make a game full stop, right? Just make slap and get rich. Well, you can. I don't think it's as common as it used to be, just because there are so many games to compete with that. Why would somebody buy your slop for $70 when they could buy something that isn't slop for $20? Why would I buy Assassin's Creed? If I'm just looking for a game to waste some time on, why would I buy Assassin's Creed Shadows instead of Schedule 1, right? If I like both games. I mean, there might be some people that only like a game like Schedule 1 or only like a game like Assassin's Creed Shadows. Sorry, I mentioned AAA games and I got allergies flared up. So it just depends. It just depends. It is what it is, right? I got nothing to say on that one, though. Oh, I forgot to share the link to the video in the chat, too. So go give Tim a like and subscribe. Please go do that. He deserves it. My boy. Alright, guys, I'll end the recording for that one there. And maybe we can do one more. One more, but I gotta go to the bathroom first. So I'll end the recording there. Be right back.